Let's talk about what happens when things don't go according to plan. Imagine a politician, totally in their element, talking to a reporter from a news network they see as an ally. You expect friendly questions, right? Softballs, maybe? But then, twice in just 1 week, that reporter hits them with some really tough, direct questions. Well, that's exactly what happened between Donald Trump and a Fox News reporter, and it created this really fascinating moment that we're going to break down.
So what actually happens when the script gets flipped like that? That's the big question we're diving into. What can this one kind of awkward interaction tell us about politics, about the media, and maybe even about the unwritten rules of their entire relationship? Okay, so here's our game plan. First up, we're going to get into that whole war versus excursion thing. Then we'll hit rewind and look at another tense moment about Russia that happened just before. After that, we'll see what all the pundits had to say about it. And finally, we'll tie it all together and figure out why these little moments of scrutiny actually matter so much.
All right, let's set the scene for our first case study. This whole thing kicked off when Donald Trump described a military operation in two, well, completely opposite ways, all in the same press conference.
So first, he really downplays the whole thing, calling it a little excursion. Now, just think about that word for a second. An excursion is like a field trip or a day trip you take from a cruise ship. It's not exactly the term you'd expect for a military operation.
But then, just a little bit later, while he was talking about oil prices, he calls that exact same situation a war. So wait a minute, we've gone from a casual trip to a full-blown war? And here is where it gets just really interesting. I mean, look at how opposite these two words are. An excursion sounds like fun, right? Leisure. A war is the definition of armed conflict. They can't be the same thing.
And that's exactly when Fox News reporter Peter Doocy jumped in. He heard that contradiction and just asked a really simple, direct question. So which one is it?
And Trump's answer? He said, well, it's both, at the very same time. It's like it was both a peaceful little trip and a deadly conflict all at once, which, logically doesn't quite track.
Unsurprisingly, that word excursion sparked a lot of criticism. People were quick to point out that this was no casual outing. There was a very real human cost here. We're talking about 8 service members who were killed and another 150 who suffered serious traumatic injuries. Now, this tough line of questioning wasn't some random one-off event. To really get what's going on, we have to rewind the clock a few days because this was actually the second time in less than a week that this reporter had really pressed Trump.
And this timeline really lays it all out for us. You can see a clear pattern starting to form. Just 5 days before that whole excursion moment, another tough question kind of set the stage for everything that followed.
So in that earlier exchange, Doocy brought up reports that Russia was helping Iran target American troops. I mean, this is a pretty serious question about national security.
Trump's response was instant. He didn't really address the report itself. Instead, he just attacked a question, calling it stupid.
And then he did something really telling. He brought up their personal history, saying, "You've always been very nice to me." This is so key because it shows how surprised he was. He was basically saying, hey, you're on my side. Why are you asking me what he called a Democrat question?
So what did everybody else think of these questions? Because, this didn't just happen in a vacuum. It kicked off a much bigger conversation about what a journalist's job really is.
And what's really, really telling is that pretty much everyone all across the political spectrum came to the same conclusion. These were totally fair questions for a reporter to ask any president.
For instance, Jen Psaki, who as Biden's press secretary had her fair share of arguments with Peter Doocy, actually defended him. She called his question about Russia very legitimate.
And it wasn't just on the left. Over on the conservative side, Sean Hannity apparently told Doocy the exact same thing. He called it a fair question and basically suggested that Trump only got angry because he was caught off guard and just wasn't ready to answer it. Seriously, just think about how rare this is. You've got a former top Democratic official and a major conservative host on the exact same page. Both of them are agreeing that the reporter was just doing his job, asking a tough but totally fair question.
So, let's zoom out. What's the big takeaway from all of this? This is about more than just a couple of tense exchanges. It's really about that fundamental push and pull relationship between politicians and the media.
These moments are so revealing because they show you how a leader reacts under unexpected pressure. I mean, it's one thing to get a hard ball from a critic you expect it from, But it's something else entirely when that tough question comes from a place you usually count on for, friendlier coverage.
And all of this really leaves us with one big, final question to think about. Whether the press is friendly or hostile, how does that relationship ultimately shape the information that gets to you? And how does it influence the way you see the world? That's definitely something worth chewing on.